Good morning, students. Welcome to this module, Assessment and Evaluation. My name is Dr. Sadrak Panduleni Shiomeka, and I'll be your tutor for this module. My contact details, in case you have queries, is 081 611 9035. Or if you cannot reach me by through my mobile number, you can always now contact me through or via an email. My email is shihomeka@yahoo.com. Please feel free to send me an email any time of the day, and once I have time, I will be able to respond to you. When it comes to calling, you can contact me always after working hours, and please do not contact me during middle of the night. Okay. Assessment and evaluation module is a very important module in your teaching career. All the teachers should be enlightened on the importance, relevance, appropriateness, types, and methods of assessment and evaluation in teaching and learning situations. Once you have acquired all these knowledge and skills, you will be able now to set and assess your learners appropriately, and you will do it at a certain specification as it is required by the Namibian Qualification Authority. Your module consists of 9 units. The first unit is looking at the basic assessment concepts and perspectives, where you will have a lot of definitions and you need to master them. And generally, what they are looking at in Unit 1 are basic concepts that has to do with the Bloom's taxonomy of objective. Unit 2, it has to do with the general and primary assessment directives in Namibia. Why are we doing assessment in Namibian schools? Why is it important? And the directives that we have received from the responsible ministry. Unit 3, it is looking at the aims, constructions, and applications of assessment tools. Why are we using those specific assessment tools? What are the main purpose of coming up with that specific tool? Why are we constructing it? And how can we apply it to teaching and learning situations here in Namibia? Remember, with this unit, we have the first part and the second part, which is covered in Unit 4. Unit 5 is looking at the design and moderation of tests and examination paper. Very important unit, because it's the one that will tell you how will you go on to come up with a moderation sheet that you can use to make sure that your examination paper are error-free. Unit 6 is looking at marking and grading techniques. 7 is feedback on and reporting of assessment results. And Unit 8, statistical analysis and interpretation of assessment results, so that you'll be able now to tell whether your students or learners are performing the way you expected them to perform, or probably you need to come up with some remedial, classes or lessons, so that you will be able to fill that deficiency that you have identified through the statistical analysis that you have executed. The last unit, it is looking at the instrument and elements of learning, elements of instructions, and parent feedback. Now, let us look at, the main purpose of this presentation. The key issue that I have to cover here, I am here to highlight key areas in these modules, the ones that you do not need, to leave out without even going through and reading them without understanding. I am here also to highlight, or to guide you on certain drawbacks based on the assessment that you have submitted and the ones that have marked. I'm also aiming at, maybe giving you guide that will result in the improvement and strengthening of your responses to questions, because some of you did not really respond the way you were supposed to respond to questions that were asked in your assignment. I'll also touch base on the examination expectations. What is that thing that I, as an examiner, expect from you during examination when you are answering those questions? The purpose also is to emphasize the importance of studying the entire study guide first before you use the notes that I have provided for you here. And lastly, main aim also is to set a strong foundation for examination preparation. Dear students, I would like now to look at some of the key areas that you need to put more emphasis on during your examination preparations. I am not saying that you do not need to read the entire study guide. Remember, I said it is very important for you first to read the entire study guide and try to understand, get a meaning out of it, and apply or contextualize all the relevant concepts that you find in the study guide. When you are done with that, come back to this specific presentation and look at the key areas that I highlighted here, and please read them with understanding. And you should be able to give examples here and there when it is required. The first issue that we need to look at are the basic assessment concept and perspectives. In the exam and also in the assignment, you have seen that we are putting more emphasis on the issue of definitions of key concepts in assessment, key concept in evaluation. You need to read and understand the meaning of each concept, and you should be able now to come up with your own definitions just by borrowing keywords from these specific, definitions that you have in your study guide. On top of that, I would like you to pay attention to the 3 learning domains as they are highlighted in the Bloom's taxonomy of objectives. The first domain that you need to know and understand it, and you look at the categories of it, is what we call cognitive domain. The cognitive domain refers to intellectual capability and skills of an individual. And these can be assessed by using, concepts like knowledge, by looking at categories such as knowledge, comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and evaluations based on the Bloom's taxonomy of objectives. This specific domain is describing the increasing difficulty in thinking skills expected from the learners as the knowledge and the content becomes more difficult. The second domain, which is very important, is the one that is addressing learners' emotions and feelings toward learning experiences. So you should be able to set, assessments that are aiming at addressing or assessing learners' emotions and feelings toward whatever that concept, whatever that specific issue that they have learned. In this specific domain, learners' attitude, their interest, their attention, awareness, and the values are demonstrated, by affective behavior. The specific domain, in addition, deals with the attitude, it deals with motivations, and the willingness to participate from the learner's side, whilst valuing what is being learned and ultimately incorporating the values of a discipline into a way of life. So it is very, very important for you to understand the meaning, what is this specific domain is all about, and you should be able to give, examples by contextualizing the definition that you have received from the notes that I'm giving you or from the study guide that you are using. The last domain is what we call a psychomotor domain, which mainly focuses on performing a sequence of motor activities to a specified level of accuracy, specified level of smoothness, rapidity, or force. In this case, learners will be expected to produce a product. And that product, don't say it will be a glass of water or it will be, a bread. It can be any product that you expect your learners to produce at the end of the day. You can ask them to draw something. You can ask them now to set a question paper if you are teaching, an educational course. Or you can ask them now to look at a specific scenario. Then you said now, suppose you are sitting can you produce a solution to this specific problem? So in this specific domain, you assess, tools that will enable learners to think at that level where they will be able to come up with what we call a product. And that product, it can be knowledge, it can be a physical product that you can physically touch, see, and maybe utilize. I said you need to make use of your study guide and look at page 11. The other key area that we are emphasizing on, apart from the learning domains, are learners' intelligence. As you can see in your study guide, intelligence is defined as, a uniform cognitive capacity that people are born with. A lot of people, they look at it like everywhere you go, or people are born with a specific, intelligence. But, there are people who disagreed with such type of definitions because they are saying all people, regardless of their gender, regardless of their age, they possess multiple intelligence. It just depends on which of those intelligences, playing or a major role, or which one is more dominant than the other type of intelligence. But it doesn't mean that you can have an individual who is only intelligent in one area and the other area, that person is not intelligent. And even learners, they are like that. They are all intelligent in all the areas. The only thing is that they can be intelligent in one area than the other. One area of intelligence is more dominant and the other one is relatively weak. So now, according to Gardner, he proposed that theory of multiple intelligence. And to him, intelligence is the ability to create an effective product or offer a service that is valued in a culture. To him, multiple intelligence is a set of skills that make it possible for a person to solve problems in life. Very important, key word there, set of skills that makes it possible for a person to solve problems in life. Each person has a different intellectual composition. They are located in different areas of the brain and can either work independently or together. And according to Gardner, each individual, each learner in your class has 9 intelligences. At this point, I would like to draw your attention to the study guide that these 9 multiple intelligences are clearly, explained in your study guide. And what you need to do is to go to your study guide and try to read about each of the 9 intelligences, look at the skills and career preferences. I will list all these 9, areas of multiple intelligences as follows. The first one is verbal linguistic intelligence. The second one is mathematical logical skills for problem solving skills. The ability to think conceptually and abstractly and capacity. Then we have what we call musical intelligence, ability to produce or appreciate rhythm, pitch or timbre. Visual spatial intelligence, that's the capacity of a learner to think in images and pictures, to visualize accurately or abstractly. Number 5, bodily kinesthetic intelligence. That is now the ability to control one's body movement, to handle objects skillfully. 6, interpersonal intelligence. That is now the capacity of the learner to detect and respond appropriately to the moods, the motivations, and desires of others. And usually, if you look at these things, learners with that type of intelligence, you will find them in careers such as counselors. Maybe they are school counselors, they are psychologists, they are salespersons, they are politicians, or maybe business persons, ministers, etc. 7, interpersonal intelligence, which refers to the capacity of an individual to be self-aware and in tune with inner feelings, values, beliefs, and thinking processes. People with this type of intelligence, you will find them in careers such as being researchers at any institutions. They are the ones that are developing theories or coming up with models that we are using, like Gardner, the one who came up with this thing. In most cases, they are philosophers, people that usually question everything that that comes on their way. When they are there learning or doing whatever they were supposed to be doing, they always have questions on why is this thing happening the way it is happening. They always, think differently than any other individuals who do not possess this type of intelligence. 8, naturalistic intelligence, the ability to recognize and categorize plants, animals, and other objects in nature. And these are the people that usually go and join, the science courses or field, and they become scientists. You find them there, they have studied maybe landscape, and they become landscape architects, or maybe they have done, biochemistry, and they will become, chemists, and some other areas like that. And the last type of, intelligence that learners possess is what we call now existential intelligence, sensitivity, and the capacity to tackle deep questions about human existence, such as the meaning of life, why we die, and how we got here. Usually, these people, again, they can either be philosophers, they can be either theologian, and these are people that will ask questions that we find it difficult for us now to have answers to. They will ask, who is God? Why God is not living with us on this earth? Those type of people that are thinking, above what we consider normal. Take note, you should be able to explain or describe or discuss with relevant examples in the examination if you happen to be asked about these 9 multiple intelligences. So listing them in the exam or tabulating them the way I gave them to you is not enough. Please relate these to your own situations at work. The other area that I would like to put more emphasis on are the guidelines for setting and moderating assessments and evaluations, both activities or tools of assessments. And the first thing that I would like us to look at are the characteristics of good assessment practices. Any assessment that you are setting up should be appropriate. If it is at level 1, it should be in grade 1. Do not set an assessment that can only be answered by the grade 3s, but you meant, that assessment to be answered or to be used by the grade 1s, because it is not appropriate to their age level and the level of thinking. Your assessment need to be fair. Assessment need to be accurate. Your assessment need to provide useful information. Assessment should be integrated into the teaching and learning cycle. Your assessment should draw a wide range of evidences, and it should be manageable. It should be reliable and valid. It should be able now to assess what it intends to assess, not, assessing what it did not intend to assess. And if you happen to, when we are saying it should be reliable, that assessment tool should be able to give you the same result in case you happen to, again re-administer that specific assessment tool to the learners. You should be able to get, more or less the same result at the end of the day. That's why we are putting more emphasis on reliability and validity of your assessment tool or assessment activity in your classrooms. Additionally, your assessment tool or activity should be transferable and it should be educative. How do teachers set good examination papers? For you to be able now to set a good examination paper, you should adhere to the requirements specified in the syllabus or the course outline. That means that we need to be familiar with our syllabus. We need to know what is expected of us in each and every subject that we are teaching. Again, we said you need to be fair. We said a fair and valid assessment of learners' knowledge and understanding and ability in relation to the expected competency of stated learning objectives. That assessment, that examination paper should have that fair and valid assessment. Learners' knowledge should be assessed fairly. We should not only concentrate on one side of learners' ability or one side of learners' understanding, but we should fairly, spread our assessment, activities to ensure that we assess all the learners' knowledge and understanding as well as abilities in relation to what is expected of them in their learning objectives. Examination paper, we said for you to do it, properly, and if it should be good, it should be clear, it should be unambiguous and error-free. It should, that examination paper, it should give learners ample opportunity to show what they can do. Again, remember, we said your examination paper should not ask learners what they do not know, but it should ask them what they know. Hence, it should give them that opportunity to show what they can do, but not what they cannot do. A good examination paper also is accompanied by a good marking scheme. A good examination paper is also free of gender, religion, and cultural bias. You have to be gender sensitive. It always keeps Bloom's taxonomy in mind, the levels of thinking and capabilities of learners in your class. It keeps different learning styles in mind when weighing your questions. It keeps the issue of left and right brain assessments in mind. And it will allow enough time to plan the question paper. Don't be in a hurry when you are setting up your question paper. Start well in advance, a month before, 2 months before, so that you'll have enough time to proofread your question paper so that you assess what you intend to assess, meaning to increase your validity as well as reliability of the question paper. Take note that with these points, if you happen to be asked in the examinations to describe or to explain or to discuss how teachers can set good question papers, you should be able to do it with relevant examples. If you give, the shopping list format the way I gave it now in bullet forms, you will not be able to score high marks, especially if that question requires you to explain, to describe, and to discuss. Those key verbs says a lot about the number of marks allocated to that specific question. What are the characteristics of a good marking practices? Take note, this is about marking practices and not assessment practices. And this is the confusion that a lot of students have, that they do not read a question or a statement to understand it, and they will be able now to give the answer of what is expected of them. What are the characteristics of a good marking practices? It should reduce assessment load. Provide model answers. Very funny to find teachers marking without model answers, and they are even now getting model answers from student scripts. That's wrong. You should have model answers before you actually, give or administer that specific instrument to your learners. Use marking guides, streamline feedback procedures, assess several outcomes within one task, delegate, the marking, choose sources, methods, and instruments that are less time sensitive. You need to know how to explain or discuss each of these in any context if you happen to be asked this thing in the examinations. Why do we need to moderate question papers? Why is it important for us now to proofread question papers? First, I will ask a question. What is moderation? What is proofreading? Go back to your study guide and try to look at the definitions provided before you look at the importance of moderation and the proofreading examination paper. Moderation is defined as a process whereby teachers compare judgments to either confirm or adjust them. As a moderator, you must have knowledge and understanding of the syllabus. And you need to make a judgment regarding to what extent the learner will be able to demonstrate achievement of the syllabus standard. What is the essence or the importance or the justification of moderation or proofreading examination papers? One, will be able now to develop shared or common interpretations of standards and expectations of what constitute achievement of a syllabus standard. You'll be able to tell whether they have achieved it or they did not achieve, but you are making a comparison to what is stated in the syllabus and what is in your question paper. You'll be able to develop shared understanding of what learners' achievement looks like. You'll be able to develop accuracy, reliability in making judgments. You will also be able to strengthen the value of teachers' judgment. Inform well-targeted teaching programs and make judgments in relation to syllabus standard. As a practice, when you are appointed as a moderator, usually you are not the one who is teaching that specific subject. Proofreading, you can do it yourself, but you always need a second person who is more knowledgeable, about that subject. Usually, this is a senior teacher at that specific school, and the person will be able to say your questions are at low level and you need to add more questions at a high level of thinking, or maybe all the questions are at a high level of thinking and you need to reduce them to a low level of thinking to avoid discriminating learners who cannot, who do not have that type of intelligence. Remember the 9 multiple intelligences that we looked at in Unit 1. How do we proofread examination papers? I will not spend more time on this thing, but I would like to highlight issues like, when you are proofreading examination papers, it is good for you to work from a printout, not the computer screen. Have a hard copy, then maybe you scan through that specific question paper page by page with time. Make sure that you have enough time when you are proofreading question papers. For some, it is a good practice if you read it loud. Each question you read it loud so that it will sound and you will be able now to conceptualize it to see if does it really making sense. Also, they said it would be a good practice if you can use a blank sheet of paper to cover up the lines below the one you are reading. And with a spelling check, using a computer spelling checker, but do not heavily rely on the computer spelling checker. Or reading backwards, words by words. But remember that a spelling checker will catch mistakes with hormones, e.g. there, or certain typos like he, for thee. Now let us look at feedback. In this module, we said it is very important for you to give feedback to the learners. If learners are not provided with feedback on their assessment and evaluation activities, then they will keep on querying because they do not know, why did I score what I have scored? Feedback is a very, very important assessment tool in teaching and learning situations. Without it, you will not be able to tell where did you go wrong, why did you score less, and also, that's the only way that you as a teacher will be able now to communicate to your learners and tell them about their weaknesses and strengths. Do not only concentrate on weaknesses, but you also need to look at their strength. To the learner, feedback informs them about correctness of their efforts. Teacher, it shows that the teacher cares about learners. It also builds the self-image of a learner. It motivates learners because in the process it builds learners' confidence, as well as improving their performance indirectly. It also identifies their strengths and weaknesses, like what I said, serves as a correction measure, and it indicates level of achievement. What did I say? I said, again, you should be able either to explain, to describe, to discuss these by using relevant and appropriate examples. Additionally, it is important for you to know the benefit of feedback to learners, to teachers, the learning process, and the education system. Because a question can come and it is only looking at why feedback is important to learners. And you don't need to mention the importance of feedback to teachers. You don't need to mention the importance of feedback to the learning process or to the education system. So as you are preparing for the exam, categorize the benefits of, feedback either to the learners, to the teachers, to the learning process, and to the education system. Now, another issue that we have looked at so far in our study guide is the use of portfolios. And we are using portfolios for assessment purposes, not evaluation, but for assessment purposes. So what are portfolios? Portfolio is a collection of learners' work, representing a selection of performance with common theme or purpose. What is the use of these portfolios in assessment? A good portfolio will be a broad spectrum of a learner's work. It serves as not only a place to store completed work, but it will include self-reflections and recommendations for improvement. Portfolios measures learners' progress, as well as learners' strengths and challenges. Portfolios contains learners' best pieces and learners' evaluations of their strengths and weaknesses of the piece of work that you are busy assessing. Portfolios, they do demonstrate that a learner can do what has been taught. And as a teacher, you will be happy if you look at the learners' portfolios and all of them, they are exactly doing what you taught them, provided that you taught them the correct things. Portfolios are also useful as a support to instructional approaches that emphasize the learner's role in constructing understanding and the teacher's role in promoting understanding of that concept. Overall, portfolios are aimed at developing independent learners, aimed at, developing what we call self-directed learners, learners who will be in charge of their own teaching and learning situations with minimal intervention from the teacher. And since you are distance students, you will understand the thing because you are more of a self-directed student than, being a traditional face-to-face student that expect a lecturer to be in front of you on a daily basis. Let us quickly look at the importance of continuous assessment, or what we call CAs, in the Namibian education system. I said, take note, at this point, you can be asked to explain or to discuss or to describe or demonstrate. The focus can also be either just on teachers, importance of CA to teachers, or CA to learners, or CA to the entire education system. So you need to read the question clearly and with understanding. Why is it important? CA can be used now to capture a full range of learners' performance, assessing learners' progress, and there is enough time to correct those problems if you happen to detect weaknesses early enough before you submit your final CA. CA can also be used to identify or diagnose strengths and weaknesses at an early stage so that remedial actions can be taken. With CA, you will be able to design enrichment activities for learners who are working above or below the expected grade level. Those ones that are not performing well, you'll be able to give them extra activities until such a time that they will be at the same level of thinking with all the other learners in your class. CA, in addition, enables learners or pupils to monitor their own achievement of grade levels and visualize their progress toward these goals before it is too late to achieve them. And that's the reason why we give tests, we give assignments, we give all these several tasks. Learners, the moment you give them their test papers, they will be able now to look at their scores. And if they can see that the scores are not good at all for the past two tests, what are they going to do? They will study hard to ensure that they will score high in the next type of assessment so that they can improve their chances of passing the overall examination. Hence, CA is very, very important, not only to the teachers, not only to the education system, but also to the learners themselves. And take note of the key highlight there when I said, if I happen to ask you to explain, please explain. If I say discuss, please discuss. Don't do it the other way around. I asked you to discuss, then you end up explaining, which is wrong because you end up not scoring all the marks that you're supposed to score. Characteristics of a good marking scheme. It is there in Unit 6, and a marking scheme is a set of criteria that you are using in assessing learners' learning. Make sure that your marking scheme is not vague or unambiguous. There is a fair allocation of marks to questions. It is at appropriate level. Allocation matches the level of the questions asked. Then what is the purpose of assessment and evaluation teaching? Remember, I said there is a big difference between assessment and evaluation. And that definitions and difference, you need to know it right from the start. The purpose of assessment, one, is to gather evidence of learning, that at least the person learned. Remember, learning is a permanent acquisition of knowledge and skills. So how will you be able to tell that this person learned? Is when you give them an assessment and they produce something, and with that will serve as an evidence that the person learned. Purpose of assessment, again, it gives teachers the information they need to provide quality instructions. Assessment also help teachers or help them to guide them in their studies, help learners to guide them in their studies, motivating them, providing feedback on areas of learning requiring further work, and generally promoting the desired learning outcome, which is formative in nature. However, it also, it is also used to judge the quality and the characteristics of the learners and summarize these in clear and widely acceptable format, which is now a summative, type of assessment or evaluation. The purpose of evaluation One evaluation, remember, you usually do it after implementing either a program, and usually evaluation is at the end of that specific, duration. Yes, we are using evaluation to measure programs' outcomes and impact. Did it really achieve what it was supposed to achieve? All the program aims and objectives, are they achieved? Did it really make an impact? It will inform future programs planning and design. Evaluation also provides important internal lessons for those conducting programs so that next time they will not repeat the mistakes. Ensure transparency and accountability, and provide broader lessons about good practice. Also very important, and this one usually gives you a problem in Unit 8, are statistics in assessments. Please familiarize yourself with the core definitions of issues such as standard deviations. Why are we using standard deviations in classroom teaching? It was in the assignment, and students did not really answer it the way it was supposed to be answered. You should also try by almost to know the meaning and the use of the following in educational statistics, especially the formulas. You should be able to calculate the mean, the range, the median, the mode. All these formulas are in your study guide. Please make sure that you are looking at that. Lastly, we are looking at the examination tips. Duration of your question paper, 2 hours and 30 minutes. Format, you should expect all the different types of questions as we learned in this assessment and evaluation module. Remember, it's all about setting question papers. The verbs hold, the key to better performance, because that verb indicates the level of thinking and therefore the way of structuring an answer. Why am I talking about the verb? Please, first of all, look at the verb that starts with that question. Did it start with what is, suggest, explain, discuss, or describe or demonstrate? Those keywords are very, very important. If I ask you to discuss and you give me a shopping list, you will not be able even to get a mark, because the purpose was for you to explain and you end up not explaining. With that, I thank you very much, and I hope you will enjoy studying and preparing for your final examination in this module. Have a blessed examination.